One sunny morning, Mr. Ben, the friendly farmer with a twinkle in his eye, was dozing peacefully under a big, shady tree on his farm. The sun shone brightly, and a gentle breeze swayed the leaves. Everything was calm, until suddenly, cluck, cluck, moo! A loud commotion erupted from the barn. Startled awake, Mr. Ben rubbed his eyes and looked around, wondering what was going on.
"What's all the fuss?"
He muttered, scratching his head. He stood up, stretched, and wandered towards the noise. To his surprise, he discovered something very odd. His beloved chickens were missing.
"Where did the chickens go?"
The cows were mooing loudly, and the sheep were baaing, hopping around as if they were in a game of tag. Just then, his loyal dog, Max, came bounding over, his ears flopping and tail wagging like a flag.
"Max, can you help me find the chickens?"
And Max barked eagerly, his excitement contagious. Off they went, like a detective team on a mission. Max sniffed the ground, following a trail of chicken feathers fluttering in the breeze. Every time he got close, though, it seemed the feathers led him in circles.
"Oh dear, this is quite a mystery."
Mr. Ben said, tapping his chin as he pondered. He gathered all the animals around him, his voice full of encouragement.
"All right, team, let's find our feathery friends."
The animals cheered, their spirits lifted. Their first stop was the barn. Max nudged the door open with his nose, and inside, they found Daisy the cow trying to do a headstand.
"What are you doing, Daisy?"
Mr. Ben chuckled, leaning against the doorframe.
"I thought the chickens might be hiding under my legs."
Daisy replied, wobbling and nearly tipping over. Mr. Ben couldn't help but laugh. Next, they wandered to the apple orchard. Mr. Ben picked a shiny red apple from a tree and took a big, crunchy bite as they searched. Suddenly, he heard a strange clucking noise coming from behind a bush. Curious, he peeked over and gasped in surprise. There was a squirrel wearing a chicken feather on its head, dancing around like it was auditioning for a talent show.
"Silly squirrel, you're not a chicken."
Mr. Ben laughed, and the animals joined in, their giggles echoing through the orchard. They continued their quest, and Max's nose led them to a little cave at the edge of the orchard.
"Maybe the chickens are in there."
He crouched down and peeked inside, and to his astonishment, there were the chickens. They were trapped behind some rocks that had fallen and blocked the entrance.
"Oh, you poor things. Don't worry, we'll get you out."
Mr. Ben said with determination. He and Max pushed against the rocks, grunting and straining until, clunk, the last rock tumbled away. The chickens flapped their wings and clucked joyfully, grateful to be free again. On their way back to the farm, Lolly the little lamb got stuck between two big rocks. "Help, I'm stuck!" She bleated, her little legs flailing. Billy the goat, with his strong horns, rushed over.
"Don't worry, Lolly. I'm coming."
He called, and with a mighty nudge, he freed her from the rocks. "Thank you, Billy. You're my hero." Lolly cheered, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. When they returned to the farm, Mr. Ben thought everything was back to normal. But then one of the chickens clucked loudly, "Mr. Ben, we're still hungry. Can we get more seeds?"
"Of course." Mr. Ben smiled,
leading them to the field where the chickens pecked at the seeds. The cows munched on fresh, green grass, and the sheep started playing tag. But then one of the baby lambs began to cry. "Where's my mommy?" It sniffled, and soon all the baby animals looked sad and worried. Kneeling down, Mr. Ben gently patted their fluffy heads.
"Don't worry, your moms will be back soon. In the meantime, let's have some fun,"
he said, trying to cheer them up. He gathered some wood and created a small raft.
"Let's go for a ride on the pond."
The baby animals climbed onto the raft, their little faces lighting up with excitement. Mr. Ben pushed the raft gently across the water, and they all squealed with joy as splashes danced around them. "Look, I'm sailing," one of the lambs shouted, as a little duckling tried to paddle alongside them. Meanwhile, the sheep and goats, who had gone to the river for a drink, returned to find their babies laughing and playing on the pond with Mr. Ben. They thanked him for taking care of their little ones, their eyes shining with appreciation. As the sun began to set, Mr. Ben gathered all the animals together.
How about a dance party before bedtime?
He suggested, and the animals jumped up and down in agreement, their excitement bubbling over. Mr. Ben turned on some cheerful music, and he began to dance, flapping his arms and twirling around. The chickens flapped their wings, the cows swayed their tails, and Max spun in circles, making everyone laugh with his silly antics. But then, just as Mr. Ben attempted a big dance move, he lost his balance and fell right into the pond.
Oops! Looks like I took an unexpected dive.
Spluttering and laughing as he emerged from the water. The animals erupted into laughter, and Max couldn't resist jumping in to splash around with him. They all had such a great time that nobody wanted the day to end. That night, as the stars twinkled overhead, Mr. Ben sat on the porch, drying off and looking at his peaceful farm. The animals were snuggled up in their cozy spots, finally ready for bed after their day full of adventures.
Good night, my friends. Sweet dreams.
Watching as their eyes began to close. And from that day forward, whenever Mr. Ben heard clucking, mooing, or baaing, he couldn't help but smile and remember the silly adventures they shared. Life on the farm was never dull with all his funny, feathery, and furry friends around.